TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
Wow, a few days with my kids, playoff basketball. Like, I'm kind of sad. The first round is over. It was a great first game of first round, and we're back to being empty nesters. But no, it's all good. I think we kind of expected mostly. You don't expect every game to be close. These teams are capable of being really bad. A lot of these teams because they're so flawed. And so you're going to have some blowouts. But I thought a lot of the games were super interesting.
Yes, I thought the drama was good. We had competitive games. We have interesting things to talk about in terms of teams and their decisions to execute a certain way and or not execute. So, yeah, this will be interesting. I really enjoyed this opening weekend of game ones. And we have every team has played a game one, which I feel like doesn't always happen within the first 2 days. But we got that. So that's pretty awesome for us. But I want to start here, David, preparing for the playoffs. When you're a coach and you're a staff, it's a challenge, right? I mean, you're playing good teams, right? I always say you don't get Houston and Detroit and Orlando, right? None of those cake teams that you get to beat up on in the regular season. Every team is, pretty decent for the most part, and then you have the exceptional teams with elite talent. I feel like when I watch games sometimes, David, teams and coaches overreact to elite players. You think about Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, Kawhi, KD, all these amazing players. And I mean, they're amazing. So you have to game plan for them. But I think it's a mistake to focus so much of the plan on them that you forget there's 4 other guys on the floor. And if that team comes out and realizes, fine, they want to do that, we'll kill you the other way and go 4-on-3 and beat you every single time.
Well, it depends on who the 4 guys are.
Well, yes. If there's 4 not so good guys, then,
if you, me, Henry, and Travis, yeah, we're in trouble. Almost no matter what they do, we're in trouble. No disrespect to any of us, but we're not going to be able to do it. Certainly not my age. So, yeah, I think that this is the nature of the superstar, and there are some minuses to having a superstar, but mostly there's lots of pluses. And I think, you're getting into what I love most and miss the most about coaching, because I made the pivot in my career in the 90s pretty much to get away from team coaching. Not that I haven't done plenty, especially when my kids got older or whatever, but mostly it's been individual. And I'm happy to mentor coaches. I love the strategy. Mm-hmm. And what I really like about this time of year, that I got a chance to experience to some degree coaching in tournaments where you were thinking down the road. You had to be able to, in a tournament, you have to win. You have to win to stay alive. But in some of the tournaments that my teams would play in, we kind of knew we were going to win. But what are we doing down the road in the end of the tournament? How we play going into that last game will help dictate how we play in the finals. It's not quite the same in the NBA playoffs. They have to think, how do we win this game? But also, how do we win the series, which is ultimately what matters most. And so, for example, I thought what Boston did against Curry, the first 4 games of that series this is just a guess. We're going to wear this dude out. We're going to let him take all the threes he wants. We're not going to show with our bigs on those handoffs and screens, and just be physical with them, attack them offensively. And they kind of panicked when it was 2-2. Mm-hmm. And then they lost. They changed what they were doing before, and they lost 2 more, which was 3 in a row. And so, yeah. So, for example, with Embiid, mm-hmm. If you're gonna decide we are not letting him beat us, I think there's got to be a better execution and a better strategy than what they did, which was what we thought they might do. In fact, tell me if I'm wrong, but didn't we say on Thursday? I remember pretending to yell like, "Hey, Joel, we're coming to double team you now." Didn't I do that?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what they did. I was being facetious, but it's what they did. Like from the moment the game started,
right?
He didn't always know where the double team was coming from, but mostly he did. Mm-hmm. And they've seen it before. And so to me, that's the one thing I've said this so many times over, and not just on podcasts, but whatever. Like what I loved about JJ Redick going back to his high school days, because I watched him in high school on YouTube. Way after high school, I watched him. But when I prepared for the NBA draft for him, and I thought it should have been maybe even the top pick, which probably Dwight Howard deserved that. But I thought JJ had a chance to be a really special playoff performer in a relatively weak draft, because What hadn't he seen a bunch? Everyone in high school tried to keep from scoring. Didn't work. Everyone in Duke in the ACC kept him from trying to score. It didn't work. Well, what double team hasn't Embiid seen? This ain't his first few years.
Right.
He's better. And I thought that you've got to come up with an innovative strategy and to make him think a little bit. It doesn't mean it will work. And you can pivot off that. But I think that to your point, like against Curry, we've seen teams so panicky to keep him from getting the open three that they give up layups and dunks all over the place. And I think there's a better foundation that has to be built with whatever innovative strategy you want to employ. And I don't think there's a lot of coaches great at that because I don't think we see that much. You're going to love this. We play 58 games. You will see much more strategies, innovative strategies put into individual games in February that you would never see now because they don't have time.
Right.
And it's gone the next day to the next game. And I think we'd see more coaches getting better at that, which means we'd see more of that in the postseason.
No doubt. And I think a big part of this, David, is what Henry often talks about, which is part of this job as a coach, a GM, whatever, in these teams is you must always win the press conference, right? You can't lose the press conference. So you're never going to lose the press conference doubling Joel Embiid, right? Because, yeah, he's so good. You have to double Joel Embiid, of course. But if you do a different strategy like we talked about on Thursday, no. Don't double. Single cover him. Let him do what he does, but you race and wear him out on the other end. If that doesn't work, you will get killed by media in the post-game press conference, right? And that's, I think, the fear, right? There's not enough fearlessness because I'm going to lose my job because the GM's got this, right? There isn't enough connectivity among teams where it's like, hey man, we trust you to be innovative. Like, yeah, let's see if it works. Remember what we love so much about Nurse in that first finals run with Toronto was, okay, go box someone against Curry. I don't give a shit. We love about Ty Lue, Mr. Pragmatist. Do whatever. Shit, it doesn't work. Fine. We'll pivot. I don't care. But I think so many guys are like coaching from a fear position of, no. If I do this, I'm going to get killed and I'm going to lose my job. Can't do that. And it's like, well, you're probably going to lose anyway. So, try something.
So 2 things. One, I don't know who this Henry person is you're referring to, but he sounds very smart. I like that. This guy's a smart guy. 2, I'm kidding, obviously. We all know what Henry's doing right now. We had a long talk with him this morning. I agree with what you're saying and what Henry said, but I would add a tweak to it. Jacques Vaughn has absolutely the right and privilege of trying the strategy I suggested in game 1, getting blown out and looking at every member of the media and saying, you understand what we're talking about here, right, people? we are not a 6 seed. Our team earned a 6 seed, but this isn't the team that earned the 6 seed.
Right,
the team that earned the 6 seed is in Phoenix and is in Dallas.
Right.
These guys are a lottery team. Nothing against it. Now, you give me this team from day one, maybe I could have turned them into an 8 or 9 seed, but let's face it, we are not that team. So I could play a more basic strategy, and I think we'd lose 10 times out of 10, 95 games out of 100, and make all of you happy, but fuck y'all. You don't pay my bills. Like, I'm trying to win a series here. We may lose by 50 every single game, but this is just one game. We can pivot off this strategy. We're going to keep trying stuff. But I know this, playing more how the average person would play his team against that guy and that team is a recipe for disaster. We'll lose every single time. I'm trying to come up with a different scenario. 53s a game, which I do think they're supposed to shoot more threes. They're just not doing it. Philly's doing a good job of defending to some degree. I also think Brooklyn's failing at some degree too. But you want to double. But maybe in game 2, they'll double them differently. Let's see. But if it's more of the same, I think we're going to see more of the same. That's my guess.
I think you're right on there. Transiting to some of the games that happened over the weekend, David, unfortunately, we saw some injuries. Ja Morant landed horribly on his hand, which was already injured to begin with. It was taped up. He came back onto the bench, not into the game, heavily taped up. And after the game, he said, like, I can't, my arm, it hurts. Like, it's unlikely. I'm in jeopardy that I'm going to be playing in game 2. So it's not looking good.
He said that?
Yeah.
I bet he's getting an MRI because the text rate was negative.
Right.
So the MRI soft tissue.
Correct. So that's an issue. Giannis, on his back contusion, real bad. No word yet on the scan there. That's going to be TBD. Tyler Hero broke his arm or his hand in that game, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. So basically, he's done for the playoffs. And this is brought up not in the Hero case. I don't think that was a block charge, but in the Morant and in the Giannis situation. This idea of blocking and charging, and it's been a debate that I feel like it's been talked about for quite some time. And so there's like most things are in society today, two camps: ban the block charge, and other people are like, no, it's fine. Like, you got to be better as the offensive player, or whatever. Here's what I will say: there is something crazy to me about if I'm the offensive player and I get by my primary defender, and I'm now in the air, either going for a floater or whatever it is I'm trying to do, and somebody comes and slides into my way underneath. Like, I'm very vulnerable up in the air, right? This is just where I am. So now, if I hit that person wrongly, which I'm probably going to do, and I don't land right, I'm going to hurt myself. So there is that element of it, but it's been a part of basketball since the beginning. So I don't know if it will ever change, but I thought it was something worthwhile. Where are you on block charge?
Okay, well, I'll circle back to what I think of the rule, but let's first talk about why there's so many charges. This isn't necessarily about Ja Morant. It's not at all about Ja Morant. The reason why we see so many charges in the postseason is two reasons. One, defenders are more willing to do it because the games matter more. Two, offensive players don't trust their shot. It's something that the average fan doesn't think about, the average player doesn't think about, the average coach doesn't think about. Man, I think about this shit all the time because that's my job. It's about confidence. It's stupid to run a guy over. It's just stupid. In fact, I'm not such a smart guy. I'm just old. I typically tell players, hey, you know how you keep running that guy over? Yeah, you should stop that. That's a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm kidding. Like, one time a player texted me. He kept charging guy. This was a player for the first time he was starting at small forward. He's always a power forward. So we were trying to help him convert to small forward. He has some really good NBA players on his team, very talented scorers, and he was a great three-point shooter. And when he would drive, he would keep running guys over, and he was frustrated with me a little bit. And because it was the first time working with him, and he texted me once, long before WhatsApp exists, just regular text message, Coach, something's got to change. And I thought, like, is he telling me I'm doing something wrong as a teacher? And so I have a little bit of swagger in me too. I wrote back. I mean, I can say his name now. His name was Linus Kleza. Who I love Linus. I wrote back, Linus, yeah, something's got to change. Quit fucking running people over. And that was it. Like, it fucking woke him up. Like, just stop. When the guy's in front of you, stop or slither around. That would be fine too, which we see a lot. So when you don't have the real faith that you can just stop and pop and knock it in, and in the playoffs with all this energy and intensity, you see it. It's mostly veterans not running people over. It's younger guys typically. They just, that zeal to get to the rim puts them really in a tough position. So you've got, the teaching point is stop fucking running guys over. Stop and shoot or pass. Let's just 1 second on the clock, 2 3 seconds, pass the ball. As to the rule, the way it's supposed to be officiated, and I tend to think they get this normally right, is while the offensive player is still on the ground, even if it's just the last bit of his front sneaker, you can slide in. After that, it's a block, which results maybe in a 3-point play, really bad. Like, you don't want to give up 3-point plays in basketball. And so I don't want them legislating it out. I want offensive players to stop running people over. I want that. And the smart players do a pretty good job. They get offensive fouls for different reasons, shoving guys off, whatever. Chris Paul got a terrible one last night against Terrence Mann. Just stupid. Like, he's not a stupid player. He did not play well last night.
No.
But he just kind of body armed him, just like boom, off the dribble. It was so obvious. Like, Chris, was that like a get you back kind of thing? You don't need. That was not his best play. But yeah, the rules are the rules. I play with them.
It's the stakes of the playoffs, right? I think that's what you're seeing. And particularly when you're older, like Chris, and you're like, ain't no more, how many more merry-go-rounds I'm going to have on this thing, right? So I feel like you're going to get those, like you said. It's the tension, right? There's so much tension. And look, it's only one game, but you lose 2 of these, now you're down 0-2, and that's a problem, right? Because
especially if you're at home.
Right.
Like Phoenix has a must-win now.
Exactly.
You don't want to chase the Clippers.
Exactly.
You don't want to chase Kawhi Leonard. I don't know when we're going to get to LA, but that's a fair thing to say.
Yep.
That's one dude you do not want to chase down 0-2.
Yep.
Not that he hasn't lost when he was the Clippers. They were up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to try it again? Good luck.
But this is high stakes playoff basketball. All right, let's get into the games last night. We'll start with Lakers Grizzlies. We mentioned the Morant injury. Again, we don't know what his status is for game 2. It doesn't look good. Some highlights. Anthony Davis was incredible in that
Unbelievable.
game. The wrecking force that everyone knows he can be. The worry about him is consistency and injury, and that almost reared its ugly head in the first half when he was seen mouthing, "I can't move my arm." Everybody was like, "Oh man, this dude's not even going to come back in the game." Who knows? He did. The Lakers 45-34 advantage on the boards. I want to say they got more shot attempts up as well. Like, they really defensively clamped down on Memphis. Those 2-minute stretch in the fourth quarter. And this is something that's bothered me about Memphis all years. Coach, I was like, their half-court offense sometimes just gets real stagnant, and they can't generate offense. That sure enough happened. Jaren Jackson Jr. was amazing. Largely, he was probably the best player. No, he was the best player for Memphis. Everybody else is kind of meh to not so great. Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura were really, really good for the Lakers. And I will say this. Rui Hachimura, 29 points. His line from last night, 78, 83, 100 shooting splits. He ain't doing that again. Okay, that's not who he is. He is a career 34% three-point shooter and a 29% three-point shooter this year. Unlikely he shoots 83%. Desmond Bane actually said after the game, the plan was to come off of Rui. That's not the guy we're worried about. Let's see if he does it again on Wednesday. Tip his cap to him. He did great, but let's see if he can repeat that. And then Austin Reeves, which you've long said is a great player.
Really good offensive player.
Really good offensive player. Is he going to average 23 points a game this series on 61-100? Probably not. But there are some things Memphis needs to do better. What did you see from a standpoint of Memphis? Did they execute properly, or they need to just play better, or was this no? They got some real things they got to go back to the drawing board on.
So we're writing probably by this afternoon, we'll publish kind of like a quick capsule of all 8 games. And I found a little GIF that I like. The other 7 GIFs from each of the first 8 games are pretty self-explanatory. The GIF I picked for the Memphis one is Ja Morant making a stupendous layup. Unbelievable play where he chased down a loose ball in front of, I think, the Lakers bench and somehow got to it before he went out of bounds, like a Dwayne Wade kind of flash play, and then raced down the court and had a beautiful layup over the front rim. And then he kind of played with the fans a little bit with his arms. And watching the game live, I thought, oh, Ja, the game's going on, buddy.
Yeah, no.
There's nothing else you should be thinking about but the bad guys, the Lakers. That's it. The fans will be cheering anyway. They don't need to be energized anymore. If you get fouled and the clock is stopped, do whatever you want. Do a dance, do a cartwheel, clap. I don't care. But I feel like, and this is something you've referenced because you're a Grizzlies fan, they get distracted easily.
They do.
And they're full of themselves, which young people tend to be.
Sure enough.
As I know I once was.
As
and
was I.
I've coached many young people, including my dumbass kids, who are still they quickly remind me what it was like to be almost 22. And as smart as they are, they got some work to do. They're not fully baked yet, in my opinion. So I thought that one play symbolized a concern I have for Memphis, which is you guys are the 2 seed, well earned. But you're missing 2 very important players for you, including a monster rebounder, maybe one of the best of all time offensive rebounder, and a great leader, screener, passer as a big. And you're playing Anthony Davis, and we haven't said LeBron James yet.
I didn't mention LeBron. Yeah.
Forget about Hachimura and Austin Reeves, who are very good, and Beasley can go crazy one game from 3. You got AD and LeBron, and I don't think they understand the gravity of the situation they're in. If it wasn't for Darvin Ham, I picked the Lakers to win the series.
Yeah,
in fact, I would have picked them to beat Denver. I think. I love Taylor Jenkins. But I may have been wrong picking LA. It's a long series. I thought Memphis was more vulnerable early before obviously Ja got hurt. Yeah. I think LA is going to be more vulnerable later in the series if it gets later. But there's no guarantee Memphis wins game 2. Yeah, without Ja especially. But LeBron knows how to play with the lead.
Sure does.
Now, he's not the old LeBron. He's old LeBron. He's not the old LeBron. Yeah, he's old LeBron. So crazy brilliant, super locked in. they're not strutting and puffing.
Mm-hmm.
They went to sip when there's a dead ball.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're fucking trying to kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Memphis, if you tag me in the jaw, but you remember, people always forget this. Maybe you will. What happens in the first few seconds of round 1, Rocky versus Apollo Creed?
I don't know what happens.
I do.
As
I'm a coach. Rocky knocked him down.
Oh, yeah.
Wake the fuck up, Apollo. We're on now.
Right.
And then it was a great fight. Obviously,
Right.
It's all scripted.
Right.
But we talk about this all the time in sports with our players. Like, we don't want to get punched in the face. Ideally, sometimes you have to be. And I feel like, and I said this to Henry earlier on a private call, maybe you were on. I don't remember. Maybe you guys were on. Like, this is a wake up for Ja. I hope he's fine, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not game 2, maybe game 3. But at some point, humility has to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys, we are faced with a existential crisis here. If we lose in round 1 to this team as a 7 seed, who got so lucky to beat Minnesota, who's very average, there's going to be some heads roll. Like, something's going to change in Memphis. I don't think they're just going to run it back again.
No doubt.
It's not linear, as we've talked about. This is proof of that if you fall off the cliff. This is pay the fuck attention to every little thing. It's as if the fans don't exist unless the whistle blows. We have to find a way to beat these guys all game long, and they're trying to kill us.
Yeah.
That's competition.
No, I'm with you 100% there. Ja does get caught up in that a bit, right? It's and I get it. It's exciting when you make a
we all
play
get
that,
it.
like, nobody can do. But run your ass back down the floor on defense, because they're coming, right? Because they're not saying, "Oh, Ja, what a great play." The Lakers ain't doing that. They're like, "Oh, you're over there celebrating. Cool. Get that ball in. Let's get down the other end, 5-on-4, because he's not paying attention." Right? Like, this is possessions matter so much, and it's, again, you're down 0-1 now. So now Wednesday is a must-win game now, right? Now you're in already in game 2. You're already in must-win territory. You don't want that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else, and I don't mean to be controversial here, because I'm certainly not telling someone else how to parent their own child. But I will tell you, just from my experience, my son was never Ja Morant, never will be Ja Morant. But in Little League Baseball, when he was 11 years old, he was fucking Ja Morant. He was by far our best player. Our area is loaded with baseball talent, fucking everywhere you look, because of where we live and the weather year round and all of that. And when he was in his All-Stars at 11, the best player on our team, I thought the best player in the tournament. Some of those guys, by the way, playing professional baseball now are playing like for the Florida Gators, top 5 in the country. You know what I did every time he was at bat? I went to the fucking outfield. I wanted him not to think about me for 1 second. I didn't say shit. When he was playing against great players and he was younger, smaller, he literally said to me, "Dad, I want you behind the plate. Coach me up pitch to pitch if you need to." I was behind the fence. But when he was the man, I fucking went to center field. I don't want anyone to look at me. This was just him versus the pitcher. That's it. I thought about that watching. I don't ever watch his dad. I never even think about his dad. I couldn't help but notice him all game yesterday. And I just thought, there's no script that has the Grizzlies winning this game. Like, you can celebrate the way you want to, but this is a fucking battle.
Yeah, man.
And I maybe Ja is inspired when he sees his dad. That's why I'm not being critical of him. But I'm just saying, to your point, what you just said about the pressure and everything, like, there's a reason why most of you don't see parents in the front row. There's a reason for that, right? There's a couple of moms. I get it. Their players tend to be older, too, their sons, where they're more used to it. Ja's carrying a lot of weight.
A lot.
Given what's happened to him this year, especially, and the guns and all of that, we both love him. I think he's amazing for the league. I was telling someone the other day, like, he's the most exciting player in our league right now, in my opinion.
So awesome.
I think he's the most exciting player. But you got to win games, buddy.
Yeah.
And nothing else matters but that.
Absolutely. We'd be remiss if we don't talk about a couple of things before we move on from this series. Old LeBron James still had a couple moves in him. Had a chase down block, had a hammer dunk in transition. Lakers still, if I'm not mistaken, getting outscored in the minutes he's on the floor. So that's something that bears watching. Anthony Davis is so the key to this, because when he's out there, that just changes the dynamic, right? He is such an eraser and covers.
I mean, Jaren Jackson was incredible yesterday. He was the second best big man on the court.
He was,
and he was amazing.
He was really good yesterday.
Over 30.
Yep. He was really efficient. He was really good.
Second best player on the court.
Yeah,
that's how good
Anthony
AD
Davis was there. Yeah.
This is why I've been saying all year about the Lakers.
You have.
They just added talent. They had a very talented team. They have more talent now, and I think that they're significantly. We did a show last week about how I think they can win the series.
You did. Yeah.
I picked the Grizzlies, but I really thought the Lakers could win. Nothing in my mind has changed. They're a very talented team.
Game one just crystallized that for you, right?
Very talented
I told you.
team. Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're Memphis, if Morant doesn't play, you have experience playing without him. You know what that is.
Were they 21-4 last year with something like that? Some crazy number.
And they won in Golden State without him last year. Played really well, right?
That's right.
They can do it, right? They have shown, and that was went on to be the champs. So they can do it. But to your point, it's fun. You guys are young and you're fun. Hey guys, adult time now. Serious. No laughing and joking. Look at us. We're so fun. Every possession, you guys got to be locked in. This is serious business.
I'm telling you right now, Jarod, I can't say any names yet, but I know from talking to some people in the league over the last 48 hours, there's going to be some big fucking trades this summer.
Oh, no.
There are some teams that have failed to live up to expectations, and there's going to be all-stars moved. It's going to happen. I don't know how many, and Memphis might be one of those teams if they don't wake the fuck up.
And I'm just going to say this before we move on. I think the future of this team might be Tripp at the 5, so making Jarod be your permanent 5, which means if they do that, they have to get a big time wing 3-4 guy who can grab boards and who can score. I'm just going to leave it there. That's something that if this doesn't work out so well, watch what happens in that 3-4 spot. I don't think Dillon Brooks is going to be long for this team come the offseason. Anyway, that's for another day.
Are you suggesting Jaylen Brown would look good in the Memphis jersey?
Listen, I'm not saying anything. I'm just
he's going to get all NBA, so it won't matter. That's a whole other thing. The movement by the media in Boston, and some people in particular probably, to try to get him all NBA, because I don't think he deserves it. Not even close. I love Jaylen Brown.
He wasn't.
He's not a top 15 player in my opinion this year, but that's how Boston pays him and keeps him. I'm glad for Jaylen. Get your money, buddy.
Good for Jaylen.
Yeah.
Heat and Bucks. Well, who saw this one coming? Well, first, let's be fair. Giannis did get hurt in the first quarter, right?
Yeah.
That matters.
Yeah.
The Heat also shot the piss out of the ball. 60-something% from 3, I want to say.
60% from everything.
Oh, for everything. They were
3 and 2.
They were out
3 and overall. Yeah.
That's not who they've been all year. I don't think. I know that ain't who they're going to be.
It's in my article. 27th in the league this year in 3-point shooting, 34.4%.
There we go. So they're probably going to revert back to the mean at some point during this series. Now, what matters, what is the Giannis situation? Because if he's out any extended amount of time, Jimmy Butler, even if Giannis was on the floor, Jimmy Butler would think he's the best player in this series. So now without Giannis, Jimmy's going to do his thing. Bam kind of woke up once Hero went out. Miami plays hard. We know that. You talk about coaches and X's and O's and schemes. Spo's going to have them doing some things. They're not afraid of the Bucks. They're not, oh my God, these are the Bucks and they won a championship. The Heat are like, whatever, man. So your point about Memphis not being serious, and the Heat, I know, they're a serious basketball team. They take everything seriously. So, not going to lose your mind. Bucks fans, don't freak out. The series is over.
Tyler Hero's out.
And Tyler Hero's now out. That's a major offensive cog for Miami. So
Milwaukee's going to win the series almost for sure.
Unless something happens with Giannis that we don't know. I don't know what that is.
Right. If he ends up not playing at all, I still think they could win 4 and 6, but it's not as easy, obviously. Miami just shot great. They got Milwaukee super scared about scattering to shooters, and they just shot fake and attacked the rim and had easy play. Miami played great. Jimmy's a bad man in the playoffs. We know this is coming. He was. If I was thinking about top 3 performance in game 1, I don't know if Jimmy makes it, but he makes top 5. He might make it. I'm not arguing with you. He might make it 30 something. Yeah.
Yeah, he was really good.
He's top 5 for sure.
11 assists. It was so good.
Yeah, 30 something, 11. Is that what it was?
11.
Yeah.
So
pretty crazy. Yeah, he probably is top 3. Yeah, it's this is Miami. This is who Miami is.
See that? Is that about? Because everybody talks about hashtag Heat culture, right? How that's like a thing, and it becomes a joke on Twitter and whatever. But it's
culture.
But it's a real thing, right? Like when you come there, there's an expectation and a way in which no, here's how we approach things, and
they do work.
Right? Like you might beat them, but you're not going to outwork them.
My players who go to mini camp with at their place, which is like you're just hoping to get a 15 spot or something. Those are hard. Everything is hard. They really have a style about them, and they recruit and attract like-minded players. Like, you have to be a fucking beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't be dilly-dallying around, man. They're all about the business.
Yeah. Memphis, pay attention to what they do in Miami. You might learn something. All right, we'll be back after this short commercial break. All right, David, the 4-5 matchup in I'm sorry. Yeah, it's the 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference. The Suns and Clippers. Headline from that game for me. Russell Westbrook, atrocious offensively. But, man, his effort and defense made up for all of that. One of the things I learned from you, I learned lots of things watching basketball from you, is that if you're going to block somebody's shot, block the shot of the guy who doesn't see you coming. Well, Westbrook had blocks from behind, which means if I'm behind you, you can't see me because you're looking at the rim, right? He had one on Durant in the first quarter where he hugged him coming around the screen. And again, we talked about this on Thursday. The willingness to fight over it and come around and stay attached to your man. Like, he wanted to. You have to want to do that. He wanted to. He did it. He had 2 or 3, same way, stay attached to my man, chase from behind on a block, but poking the ball out of bounds or poked it to get a steal.
Yep.
Guys, possessions matter. Like, if they get 5 more than you do and they convert on 2 of them, they're probably going to beat you, right? Like, this is how games work. So he was outstanding. Kawhi Leonard, of course, was ruthlessly efficient. 38, 5-5 or 35, 5-5 on super high efficiency. Had dagger threes down the stretch.
Yeah.
Durant was pretty good. 29, 11, and 9. Almost 1 rebound away from a triple-double. Like, they were doubling.
Is that right? He had 11 assists?
Mm-hmm. They were doubling. He went, oh, I see.
Yeah.
DeAndre.
Yeah.
I got a question about Ayton. Is there a way that he can become a more aggressive player when he catches the ball?
Yeah,
I feel
just like Jaren Jackson has.
He's just sometimes a little too, I don't want to use the word soft, but the force with when he catches it, that is a little, it's not there. You know what I'm saying? You catch it in there, you're a big fucking dude. Go up there with that big hugeness and make them feel you. It's a lot of like turn, soft hook. I'm like, and that's necessary sometimes. But I'm like, sometimes you got to just use that big body of yours and knock somebody down.
I don't want you saying big body. I like you saying big hugeness. You said go in there with your big hugeness. I like that. He's a big dude. He went number 1 overall for a reason.
Big dude.
Yeah. This is Battle of the Titans between Kawhi and KD, and Kawhi was better than KD last night.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thought if you're Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
What I took from the game was Chris Paul couldn't make his little 15-foot shot.
Yes, that wasn't working last
2
night.
2 of 8 from the field. He just,
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Lowry for the Heat, Like, we're seeing a changing of the guard quite literally.
Sure.
And so the way it works with old guys, I've told you many times, is you don't just flip the switch and they're gone forever. It flickers. Mm-hmm. You'll have a good game and then 3 bad games, and a good game and then 3 or 4 bad games, typically. Mm-hmm. So let's just see how fast we get a flicker from Chris. It better have, not that LA couldn't lose the series lead, they could. But you don't want this team to get confident. And I said on our show, Phoenix, for whatever reason, was Terrence Mann's best opponent in the West. Mm-hmm. He was very good last night. He feels comfortable playing against them.
Well, he's athletic, right? And he's
athletic and long, plays really hard, very smart. And he got into Chris Paul's skin a little bit too.
Sure did. And look, I want to be fair to Chris. He did have 11 rebounds and 10 assists last night. So
he played his ass off.
Right?
They needed him to score.
They needed those 15-footers when he comes around that screen. He needed to knock those down.
Bounce around the rim and bounce on the rim, kept bouncing out.
And sometimes that's shot variance, right?
Yeah, maybe next game it'll go in. They need it. They need it to.
And if you're Phoenix too, okay. Durant can obviously do even better than he did last night. You had a good Torrey Craig game, and you
really good 22, right?
That may concern
22,
you, right? Because now you're like, shit, is he going to do that again? Maybe not.
No, I'm just saying, if you're Phoenix, you don't want to chase Kawhi Leonard.
No.
He's a killer.
No.
You're going to lose a game that you know you're going to win because he just doesn't let his team lose. The question is, are you up 3-1 or 3-2? Because if you're down 2-1, 3-2, you're in trouble.
Yeah, no, 100%. So just like Memphis, Phoenix is now in a must-win game for game 2, right? Don't want to go down to LA, down 0-2. You're creating problems for yourself. I thought Booker was mostly okay. Not spectacular. I thought defensively he had a lot of effort plays. He was really putting his nose in there on defense. I think Westbrook, he made up for it because some of those offensive decisions he made, I was like, yikes.
Same old Westbrook that way.
And I think that may happen. He may shoot them out of a game or make a bad play down the stretch that costs them ultimately. So we'll kind of see how that all plays out. I was also actually, even late before the Kawhi threes, Durant, especially in the last two plays, clearly the Clippers wanted to get the ball to Kawhi. Durant's like, fuck that. Like, denial. Like, which I thought was like, you ain't getting it. Let Eric Gordon or somebody else score this point because it ain't going to be you. And that's sometimes what it's got to be, right? Like,
sure.
I'm not letting him beat us. Like, let's play the percentage odds, right? This guy, maybe he'll miss.
I do like denial as opposed to double teaming.
Yeah.
Deny your guy. Yeah.
We had some notes come out of that game before Chris Haynes reported that it's unlikely Paul George plays in this series. So they need him in game one. I think the longer the series goes, they will obviously need him and miss his presence out there. So that's something to watch. And I don't know if you saw this. I put this in the doc, David. Rachel Nichols was with Showtime now, was with Phoenix at the end of the regular season, and she spent some time with DeAndre Ayton. And this is something we talk about. You love it from the player standpoint. And we always say that KD is not really the talk to guy, leader guy, right? Like, let's rally the whole team. Let me do this thing. But apparently he's been mentoring and taking DeAndre Ayton under his wing. And every time Rachel would bring up KD, Ayton's face just lights up. Oh, man, that guy's so good. Like, we're working out, rehabbing together, and he's just showing me all these things. And I'm like, ooh, are we having a late career renaissance with Kevin Durant as not like everybody on the team, but give me one, like, it's like, you give people steps to work on. Okay, forget about everybody. We got Chris and Monty for that. Ayton, you take care of him. Can you do that? Interesting. I'll be watching to see how that works.
It worked for Mr. Miyagi.
That's right.
He only had Danielson.
Right, just one. Just
he
one.
only had Danielson. Yeah. Listen, I've often said my teaching techniques are more like Miyagi than anything else. It doesn't always make sense what I'm teaching until you play in a game. That's what I think. But yeah, Durant's knowledge of the game is like Tom Brady. He and LeBron are like Tom Brady. They've seen everything a million times over for so many years. Yeah, they could write textbooks on stuff.
And it's so interesting, David, because you talk to players. It means so much to players like Ayton when titans of the game speak to them, right? It comes across different than when you tell them than when their coach tells them, right? Like, it's a peer saying, "Oh, buddy, let's work and do these things together." It's like you're my friend. Come on, hang out with me and do some stuff. It's really incredible.
I told you I had a player once tell me, he called me and said, "Hey, LeBron James hugged me today." It was a teammate of his.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah." He wasn't all that impressed, but he was still LeBron hugged me. He was glad that he finally won him over.
Right.
Yeah. It does mean something from these icons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Oh, the last game of the night, the unserious Timberwolves versus the Denver Nuggets. God, they just look bad, David. Like, do they look like they didn't even want to be there? Like, you made the playoffs, man. Like, I know you're probably not going to win, but show something. Murray, I thought, had a little jittery to start the game, but had some nice moments. Jokic was doing Jokic things. I thought Porter shot the ball pretty well. Like, if the Timberwolves are going to play like how they played last night, this series is going to be over in 4 games. And Denver's going to be putting their feet up, waiting for whoever comes out of that Clippers-Sun series.
I'm not going to waste any of our time talking about that game.
There we go. I said it all.
Moving on. I could not say anything. I could not add anything to what you added. Minnesota shows up, plays better. We'll talk about it.
I love it. All right. We got a couple game twos tonight. Let's start with Brooklyn and Philadelphia.
We didn't talk about Cleveland and New York.
Oh, my God. We'll get to them. We'll get to them in a minute.
Okay.
That wasn't last night. That was on Saturday.
That was Saturday night. Saturday.
Brooklyn and Philly play game 2 tonight. On Thursday, you said on our show, as the underdog, and you said at the top of this show, you're probably going to try some innovative things if you want to beat Philly. Jock has said it. You said it. Shoot 50, 60 threes a game. That's how an underdog upsets a favorite. You've got to rain on threes. David, there was a point in the game, and I was at that game, where Philly had made more threes than Brooklyn attempted. I was like, well, clearly they didn't listen to David's strategy at all.
Or their own coach. He wanted them to shoot more threes, too.
And they did not race, I thought, with the effectiveness that you mentioned they should. I was like, guys, in the first quarter, Embiid was barely getting across half court. I was like, guys, race. Wasn't happening. Maybe they can't. I don't know. But this strategy, not a winner for you.
No, the biggest thing to me was what they did defensively, where they made it so obvious. That's a concern, and so maybe we'll see something a more targeted or nuanced strategy for double teaming him. And then they've just, to me, if you have a guy who's open for three and doesn't shoot it, you got to take him out.
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
Let that
it's
thing
the
fly.
only way to learn a lesson is we have to get some variability to this and hope we get hot, and then maybe things will change. They'll come out of this more, we'll attack more, but we're not going to be them trading twos. No. And as it turns out, because we're double teaming, they're getting threes and we're not. Like, you're really going to get screwed. Those are blowout games.
And it was interesting because Jock said after the game, I think at halftime, Embiid only had 9 shot attempts. So he was like, "Oh, plan's working," and it's like, "But you're down." Like, so
not working at all. They were down big,
right? But you're down. So is it working? Like, I get it.
The goal is not to keep him and Harden from scoring. The goal is to keep the Sixers from scoring and to score them one more point.
The opposite of what Pop said that Kawhi realized. My design of play isn't for you to score; it's for us to score.
Yeah,
right. The goal is to stop Philly from scoring. We didn't do a good job of that.
Right.
And Jock after the game, which I thought was a little concerning, he said, they did what they had to do. We got a race. We didn't do a race, nothing that. I hope maybe in the next game. I'm like, Jock, if we're starting this early, we got problems. They call 3 seconds and traveling on Embiid. And I'm like, if we're starting that already after game 1, this is not a good look. We're not hoping for the best here going forward. So,
well, with that bit of advice, I'm ready to move on to the next series. That's really what he did. Wow.
He's like, hopefully they call 3 seconds and traveling. I'm like, oh, no.
Whatever.
I was like, that's not it.
They do that. If they call 3 times, you're still blown out.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That's not the answer.
Certainly not the answer. Maybe the most exciting game, David, game 2 tonight from this weekend, Warriors Kings. De'Aaron Fox was incredible in that game. Shot the ball well, and
it was a great game.
All that being said, Steph Curry with a 3 to tie the game. He just missed. Man, if we get 5 more games like this, 4 more games like this is going to be a fun ass series. What were your takeaways from Sacramento and Golden State?
Yeah, I was really impressed with the shot making of both teams. I'm not impressed with the defense. Although Golden State's strategy was good, Sacramento just played well. Fox went 4 of 8 from 3.
Monk was excellent.
Who was?
Monk was excellent.
He was so good. That isn't always going to be the case. He and Herder both can be bad. I had the Warriors in 6. I think it can be an amazing series, 6 or 7 games. Heavy offense. Yeah. If the Warriors can figure out a way to keep Fox from getting off, they'll probably be pretty good. But easier said than done. He's an amazing player.
And Kevon Looney has got to get so much credit for the way. I mean, we're big Looney fans here. Man, he was a real problem for Sabonis to try to score through because you just really can't, right? That he's just so big. Like, you can't get through that guy.
Looney is one of the most underrated defensive players in the league because he can guard your wings and he can guard your bigs really effectively. Maybe Draymond helps him a lot there.
For sure.
But not on the perimeter so much as the post. It's just a really, really good player. Much, much needed player for every team. Yeah, Wiggins I thought looked pretty good.
And Wiggins was pretty spry. Yeah. I was like, whoo. Yeah. And that athleticism.
Spry wasn't my concern. His touch around the rim was. And I think he did okay.
Didn't shoot it great. 1 of 8 from 3.
Yeah, that's what you expect. Yeah, right. That's pretty key. They get through this series, the next opponent's even not more worried because Wiggins can be getting better, not worse.
So the longer it goes, right, the better Wiggins is going to get. So yeah. No,
probably. Yeah.
This makes sense. All right, let's talk Knicks Cavaliers. They don't play game 2 until Tuesday night.
Right.
But that game 1, David, the Cavs could not secure a rebound. Like, how do you employ a team with big guys like Jarrod Allen and Evan Mobley, and you're letting the Knicks out-rebound you? Now, look, the Knicks aren't small or bad. They're a very tenacious board team, but come on. Like, they had a series where they got just a number of offensive rebounds in a row, and I'm like, guys, in a tight game where every possession matters, this is how we lose right here, because we cannot secure the possession by grabbing the rebound.
We talked about it in the preview last week that the Knicks have a real advantage on the offensive boards. As good as Cleveland is defensively, top 2 all year, they're not a good rebounding team. They finished the season dead last, I think maybe since the All-Star break. Yeah. Certainly in the last 15 games, but I think it was the All-Star break. That was a concern. They don't give up a ton of second chance points because their defense is so good. They stop you the second time too. But the Knicks have a top 5 offense. So giving them more chances, it's not like giving Detroit more chances. So it's an area Cleveland's got to fix. I promise you, it's on red letters on the wall. guys are getting breakdown film on it. You've got to rebound. You've got to fight your guy. Don't let him get it if you can't get it. But you got to swarm all 5 guys. I guarantee you, they'll be better in game 2. I'd be shocked if they're not.
As we talked about at the top of the show with Memphis, we mentioned it with the Clippers and Russ staying connected to his guy and fighting around. So much of this, they know, right? This stuff is all on the whiteboard and their binders of what they have to do. Well, you got to do it now. Right? And I feel like for some guys, at this time of year, it's like, all right, you turn it up, you do whatever. But it's also tough, right? Because it's the end of the season, right? And your body is worn down. And now you're telling me I got to be more physical and tag a body and grab a rebound? Well,
yeah, you do.
If you don't, you're going to go home, right?
Yeah. Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson hope that you don't. Yeah, they're ready to bang.
They oh man, those guys, they will put a body on literally anyone and anything in their path.
And Hartenstein's good too. I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan since he was in the G League.
Such a good rebounder.
Yeah.
I thought that was also illustrative in a game that was a blowout, Celtics Hawks. But the Hawks had gotten to this point because we talked about, man, they killed Miami on the boards. Clint Capella by himself at 21 rebounds or 22 rebounds.
Yeah.
And the Celtics clearly saw that and were like, well, we can't let that happen, right? We got to stop them. We're not going to stop them all the time. We got to limit the offensive rebounds that they get. Malcolm Brogdon was getting in there doing some offensive rebounding. Every teams use a phrase called gang rebounding, right? Where everybody kind of everyone's got to go and do their job. Either get on a body, box out, get up there and get that rebound. The Hawks still grab some offensive rebounds, but not as many as they did in that game against Miami Heat in game 1.
I think they had 22 against Miami at 14 last night. That's not going to be enough against Boston, who's a much better team. Boston, the one issue for Boston, they had too many turnovers. They had a lot
of turnovers.
And that's a concern. They've got to fix that against and for the next round against Philly. You want to make sure you're keeping them off the glass and not having many turnovers. So you have more possessions. But I don't think it'll be a very competitive series. I feel like we're seeing the dying remnants of a civilization that was disappointed to begin with in Atlanta. Yeah, you could just sense that it's not going well. And it's a bad matchup for Trey with Derek White and Marcus Smart hounding him all game.
I mean,
Marcus had 3 steals, Derek White had 2 blocks.
Yeah, he was 5.
Those guys really defend. Yeah,
and not only do they defend, they're also Marcus Smart is stronger.
Yeah,
very physical, and Derek White is so long. Trae Young's excellent, but when you're 6 foot in shoes and you put strength and length on you, it's just hard, man. It's
hard.
It's just hard to score over that. So that's going to be a tough series. Something to watch too. Jaylen Brown mentioned with the hand injury is I'm it's a little tough feeling the ball. I'm like, in this series, it won't matter because Atlanta's Atlanta. But against the 76ers next series, if that's a thing and he can't figure that out, watch out. That's something to definitely be concerned about. So he has 6 turnovers. He was, Philly's the kind of team where they'll turn that into offense. All right, what are you looking for specifically in tonight's games? We only have 2. Nets Sixers game 2 and Kings Warriors game 2.
I'm looking forward first to taking a long walk with my wife after dinner. I watched almost every game all the way through all weekend, and she was busy doing our kids' taxes and our mom's taxes, but I'm going to be a husband. I want to see the Nets do something different with Embiid. I want to see him shoot more threes. And I'm curious how the Warriors decide. Are they going to stay with strategy of mixing things up versus Fox? Sometimes let him drive. Sometimes give him the 3, see how he does. What can they do to get their offense going even better? Can Sabonis score better than he did? Because that's an important thing for Sacramento. And it's tough against Looney and Draymond.
Very tough.
But I think that one's going to be the really entertaining game again. I just think it's 2 incredible offenses, and they can't really guard each other.
You talked about what you wanted for the Nets strategy. You wanted them to play with pace and race.
Yeah.
Mike Brown, I don't know if you caught this in the game Saturday when he was talking to whomever at the sideline. I think Malika Andrews was a sideline reporter, and he had said to her, I want them to keep racing off a miss, off a make, race. And I saw a couple times, David, even off of a make, quickly got the ball, and they're flying down.
They're trying to wear the Warriors
out. Golden State was flat-footed. It led to layup. I was like, ooh. But that isn't. So for the Nets, I'm going to turn this back to the Nets. If you weren't racing all year, kind of hard to all of a sudden start racing now, right? When you maybe you're not conditioned well enough to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's why I think teams should race to begin with. First of all, when you're down 10 with 4 to play, you probably want to race. We're down 20 with 8 to play. You might as well have it in your bag anyway. Some guards just want to control it better. That's not their natural inclination. And to me, you got to coach it up just in case you need it.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if that changes tonight. All right, guys. Enjoy the playoff matchups, and we will see you later in the week. Take care.